What can we trust to happen this Friday night? We'll talk about it right here on Locked on Clemson.
You are Locked on Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked on Clemson, part-time host and producer over on 105.5 FM The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked on Clemson your first listen of the day. We're part of the Locked on Podcast Network now, the #1 sports podcast network. So thank you so much. And to the everydayers out there that stick with us Monday through Friday for the exclusive Clemson content, big salute out there to you. And we appreciate you hanging with us. Hey, about 70% of you are not yet subscribed. So what are you waiting for? I mean, seriously, if you're here, if this is your second time or third time, welcome in, but hit the button and join us and stay with us throughout all week as we get into the last part of football and the start of college basketball. Today, we're going to get ready for that Louisville game. There's a lot to discuss, a lot of things that we would love to see for Clemson going into this game because it is a big one. Even though Clemson, a lot of their goals are gone, there's a lot of things still out there that we want to see the Tigers do better, or we want to see them get another shot at it. Hey, can Cade Klubnik stack up back-to-back games? Can Clemson go down to Louisville and beat them on a Friday night in an away game? And will Clemson's front seven, improve on what they did against Florida State? We will talk about it right here on Locked on Clemson. A quick reset of where we're at. Clemson overall is not doing very well. They come off of a win against Florida State, 24-10. Louisville, 7-2, 4-2 in the ACC, coming off an overtime loss to California, and clinging on to still some ACC title hopes. Friday night, 7:30 on the road in Louisville, if you will. Obviously, Louisville had a string of years when they joined the ACC where they were not able to beat Clemson. I think it was about 7 years in a row. And they got extremely frustrated. Last time I talked to Louisville fans, after they lost to Clemson again, they were telling me, like, this is the game that they circle every year because this is the team they just haven't been able to overcome. And last year, they were able to do that in the ACC. And, a lot of people kind of gave me a lot of flack last year because I thought, hey, this team could beat Clemson. And, oh, no, they're not, no way. But they did. They did. And they could do it definitely again. And for me, when I think about this, I think about the Cade coaster. Okay, hear me out here. The Cade roller coaster. What kind of Cade are you going to get? Can Cade Klubnik outduel regressing Miller Moss? We would hope he can, but we're actually in a scenario where we never really thought we'd be there at the beginning of this season. Will Clemson's quarterback continue to be a roller coaster, up and down guy? You don't know if he's going to fulfill the promises or be the chosen one or crash and burn. On paper, Cade Klubnik has been playing better. If you talk to any of the analysts, if you see them on social media, all the experts out there, they're going to tell you that, man, Cade Klubnik's having a great season. Look at his stats. Man, Cade Klubnik's having the past 4 games have been amazing. Look at his stats. But we don't care about stats here only because we know what we're seeing with our eyes. This is the Eye Podcast. I'm going to show you and tell you what I see with my eyes. And what I'm seeing with my eyes is Cade's still not, the greatest out there. He's still got a lot of concerns out there. But he has been playing a little bit better. Also, his opponents have been not as good. Can he play better ball than Miller Moss? That's really the problem. It doesn't really matter what he did the past 4 games. It doesn't really matter what he did the first 4 games. What matters in this Friday game is, can he beat the quarterback across from him? Honestly, more often than not, when it's been a quarterback that is confident, Cade hasn't risen to the occasion. Can you say that Miller Moss is confident? I don't know. I mean, it seems as if the Louisville fan base have less and less confidence in Miller Moss. The problem is, though, that Clemson fans Don't know if they really are confident in Cade Klubnik either. We see a lot of good statistical performances, and then you never know what you might see the next week. It could be yelling at your TV, hopefully not breaking your TV. I would never recommend that. Both QBs, look at this, just to frame this up for you. Both quarterbacks' stat lines are as follows: 2,130 yards passing, both of them. Over 10 touchdowns, both of them. 5 or more interceptions, both of them. 60 to 68% completion, or plus 64% completion, both of them. If you look lined up on the stat line, both of them are pretty much equal. You're going to tell me, because I know you are, you're going to say, but Morgan, Miller Moss is regressing. Miller Moss is no good. Then you're going to turn around and tell me, Cade Klubnik, man, he's had 4 great games. He's doing better. He's looking great. I mean, statistically, we're seeing 2 quarterbacks that have not performed the way that we would have expected. I mean, that's really the truth. The trend, though, is opposite for the 2 teams in the past couple of games. Cade's coming off a very efficient game against Florida State, 20 completions, 27 attempts, 220 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and a rushing touchdown, in which I love when Cade gets rushing touchdowns because he becomes more confident through that. When Cade is confident with his legs, he is more confident overall with his arm. When Cade is scrambling to not die, then that's when his passing game gets worse. Moss also, on the other hand, has regressed. In the past 3 weeks, he's gone down in completion percentage. He's had more picks than touchdowns, and he really didn't finish the Cal game very well either. So all those things matched up are saying to me, this is lining up, even though it's a Friday game, even though it's an away game. And by the way, Clemson's really, really done better in away games anyways. But Cade can actually get the edge and has the edge that we can look forward to in this matchup Friday night. The decision-making versus FSU looked pretty good to me. I liked his easier throws. He didn't force a ton of things. Now, there was the gimmicky throw that was forced and it worked out. I don't really want to see the gimmicky ones. I've already told you that I hated those. But there were a few times where Cade did not get Batman neck. You know what I mean by Batman neck? Michael Keaton Batman, where he couldn't turn his neck. Cade is that way in the pocket. He looks in one direction, and if there's 2 people over there, then he's making those 2 reads. If there's one guy, then that's only the read he's going to make. But against Florida State, I actually saw a few times, not every single time, but a few times where he moved his eyes, and only that, moved his neck and his head around. So I like the little bit of glimmer of change or evolution that we're seeing from that. He used his legs situationally, not recklessly, not scrambling to keep his head on his shoulders, but situationally calculated. That's what Cade needs to do. He's actually not that fast of a runner, and he struggles to get to the outside. He doesn't really believe that. If you ask him, he'd probably say he runs a 4.240. The way that he runs and scrambles, it looks like he thinks he's better than he really is. And I mean, I think that could kind of line up with how you feel about Cade. He feels like he's better than he really is. But he looked more like the senior that we wanted to see this season against Florida State. Some of those things, still some problems out there, but not a guy that was much of a roller coaster throughout the game. So I like that. And we are allowed to be skeptical. Road environments, not easy. Short week, not easy. Friday nights always give you the weird heebie-jeebies. But can you trust Cade to continue what he did against Florida State, to build off that, and to beat Miller Moss, who is dangerous? Don't get me wrong. He's dangerous enough to beat you, but not consistent enough to really be as much of a threat as he could play. Cade needs to play good ball. And if Moss stays the same way he has been, then I believe that Cade has the upper hand. So, yeah, give me the advantage to Clemson and the quarterback and Cade Klubnik, even though it's a thin margin. I'll give you that. It is definitely a thin margin there. But I believe that there could be a good Friday night happening this weekend if Cade plays confident the way he did against Florida State. We're going to talk about some more things Clemson can do. They're actually going to try to stop Louisville from getting into the postseason. Can they do it right here in the second segment on Locked On Clemson? The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps the game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. So right now, go over to FanDuel because FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Yeah, you heard me right. $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com, sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back in segment 2 here for Locked On Clemson. And thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. And thank you so much, so much for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. It's really amazing to see when I tell my family about Locked On and what it means and how much they have built from the ground up. This is really, really a great company to be a part of and also a great podcast because here's the thing. It's not just about Locked On Clemson. You can go and see what the other teams are doing. And in just 30 seconds or 30 minutes, in just 30 minutes, you can get detailed information about your opponents or other teams across the country. It's pretty awesome. So let's get back into it. Louisville has dreams of going into the postseason. Clemson's got dreams of going to the postseason, but just to get a bowl game. Louisville still has maybe just a chance. If they get to the ACC title, Clemson could play spoiler or Louisville could continue their dream of going to the playoff. Who wants it more? Louisville is playing to keep a chance to get to the postseason, to get to the playoffs, a chance to get to the ACC championship game. Those are big time dreams for the Cardinals, and they want to make them a reality. Clemson has a chance now to be the flip of this. Not many times in the Dabo Swinney era have you ever thought where a Clemson team has to play the spoiler. I mean, most of the time, it's the other teams that are playing the spoiler for Clemson and instead of that. And now Clemson is the underdog. Clemson is getting +2.5, according to the Vegas right now. And ESPN's FPI has 54.9% chance of winning to Louisville. So Clemson is playing to not only avoid not going to a bowl. They need to win 2 out of the last 3. And it'd be great if they could win this one because Furman, you would think they're going to win, but it's not just about getting to the bowl game. It's about revenge for last season, revenge for what happened in Death Valley, and playing spoiler for someone's hope for the postseason. That's a position that Clemson rarely is in. And so these players should be more motivated in that case. I mean, to me, that adds a little more spice to the whole storyline of this game. If both teams are kind of desperate, which they really are, the problem that you have is which desperation is more impactful. In Louisville, top 20 team, 20th overall right now, 7-2, technically still alive in the ACC race, but they cannot afford another loss. Clemson, is the underdog first time all year, even though, we probably thought they should have been way before this, but trying desperately to get 6 wins in a must-win situation and avoid getting in a must-win situation against South Carolina, your rival, away from home at the end of the season. You never want to put that kind of power and this scenario that you could do to Louisville in the hands of the South Carolina Gamecocks. Last year, Louisville walked into Clemson and snapped the streak. As I mentioned earlier, this is Clemson's shot now to bring it back to them and get them a win over the Cardinals. 7:30 tomorrow night. Going to be about 64 degrees, good weather, and this could be an opportunity. There is pressure on Louisville. I mean, if you look at the big talking points for this game, it's a Friday night showcase. You have kind of an embarrassing loss against Cal in overtime. And Jeff Brom's track record, teams can do really well one week and then turn around and lose as a favorite the next week. Well, guess what? They're the favorite this week. The worst place to be mentally is where you have to win, and you've already shown that you have to, play a tight game at home, and Clemson needs to make it a tight game, needs to make it difficult for Louisville, because put all the pressure on them to walk away with a win. Now, there is still, you can't really ignore it, but there is a lot of pressure on Clemson as well. Different kind of pressure, though. Bowl eligibility versus trying to keep to your postseason hopes. Big difference there. We don't know where Clemson's going to go in their bowl game. Maybe the Pop-Tart Bowl. You're just going to hope to get something that'll be fun to take your family to, maybe with good weather. Maybe it's not going to be too bad of a plane ticket, especially with all the craziness in the airlines that's going on right now. But it's not just bowl eligibility. A lot of it's pride and revenge from last season, but it's also perception. It gets frustrating to hear week after week that Clemson and Dabo Swinney have lost their edge. They no longer have that winning formula. And if they lose, then, you still will have those problems still sticking out there. Dabo is taking a beating publicly. And a lot of people are saying, hey, it'd be great to not even have a bowl game in order to be able to evaluate players in the transfer portal better. Oh man, that's where we're at right now. It's kind of like imploding season and just dump it and run. A scorched earth on 2025. And you know what? These players, they're responsible for it. It's their fault, and they own it. They should own it if they don't. But they're getting paid good money to be terrible. That's for sure. They're not chasing trophies, but they also don't need to let the season go downhill. And against Florida State, that's the one thing that I noticed, is that the team was still fighting and playing hard. Against Duke, they were fighting and playing hard as well. I don't believe that Clemson players are slacking off, are going to let the season go down the drain, are going to try to purposely play, sandbag or whatever to miss a bowl game or to kind of have this season be over with. But I can understand where the fan mindset is of scratch the season, work on 2026 now. But it is going back to that program perception. You're not going to help your recruiting process by letting this season implode. And you're not going to gain a first-round draft pick by letting the season implode either. So there's really no benefit to just losing out or slacking off. Clemson used to be the team that has their dreams ruined. Now they can be that team. This is the first chance really in forever that I know that Clemson has that flip of the script. And all they need to do is believe in themselves and believe in each other. They could see some things that were working better against Florida State. And I do believe this team is more talented than the 4-5 record that they have. They haven't done well in situational football. They haven't done well to play complete games. And they haven't communicated very well on offense or defense. So there's a lot of stuff that you can't trust. And playing clutch when you have Cade Klubnik, I don't really want Cade Klubnik as my quarterback if I'm getting into a clutch situation down to 2 minutes to go and having to win the game. More often than not, Cade plays hero ball and screws it up. So do we trust this team? Do we trust Cade? Do we trust the offensive line to win on the road? Not just win on the road, but finish the game, finish the third down, finish the red zone opportunity. I wish that I had all the answers for you, because this season of all seasons is one of those ones where, I really don't. You lose this one, you probably need to win South Carolina, and winning in South Carolina is going to be tough to be bowl eligible. Furman, is a winnable game for sure. You win this one, and with Furman, then you've shored up bowl eligibility, and the South Carolina game is just pride and bragging rights at the water cooler for us fans. I don't want more stress on that Carolina game than there needs to be, so just go ahead and handle business on a Friday. I want the best for Clemson moving forward, and the best is to do their best this Friday night to see if they can get that elusive 5th win on the season. All right, we're going to finish up the show for you everydayers who are still with me. I know you are. And so for some of you who haven't yet decided to subscribe and you're still with me, we're going to talk about the defensive line for Clemson and why they haven't been playing up to their level so far this season. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. Join the free Trademaster program today to score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Clemson might have 2 of the top NFL draft picks coming up in 2026 from their defensive line. But you wouldn't really think that. You wouldn't feel it. They've had a 5-star front, but average results. And that NFL defensive line has done anything but play like an NFL defensive line. Somehow in the middle of the pack nationally, statistically. And so Louisville on a Friday night in front of all of their fans is finally is the Clemson defense going to play like what we think they should play like? Or is it going to be another not dominant performance and just getting blocked up? You know, Pro Football Focus and all the draft boards are still showing a ton of love for Peter Woods and T.J. Parker, headlining a lot of the mock drafts that are out there, higher than even the Power Rangers were when the Clemson had those guys. And that's still baffling to me, even though every single NFL season or NFL draft is based on the group of players that are out there. So maybe the group of players for the defensive line aren't as good as back then. But even when Clemson has so many first-round draft picks, it seemed as if they were disruptive and they were who we thought they were on Saturdays. But Peter Woods and T.J. Parker are not playing like 2 guys that should be in the top 16 of the NFL draft, the top half of the first round of the NFL draft. The overall defense, 53rd in yards allowed, total yards. Rush defense is strong, about 106 yards per game, top 20 in the country, give or take. But pass defense, absolutely ugly. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that, they're not getting any pressure on those passing downs, and they're just allowing their secondary to be exposed. What did they do better against Florida State? Well, they got 6 sacks against Florida State. But a lot of it was due to constant pressure and aggressiveness from Tom Allen early on in the game, but also from men that are not Peter Woods and T.J. Parker. Believe it or not, it had to come from a lot of pressure from Sammy Brown, from Avion Terrell, and other guys out there, Jaheim Lawson. Other players out there had to get to the backfield as quickly as possible in order to make something happen and stress out the quarterback. Also, the offensive line for Florida State wasn't as good. The front 7 did set the tone. And, a lot of times when they got pressure, they had, as we looked at it statistically, Clemson has to bring 6. That's not very good. They at least need to bring 5 to have any sort of pressure, but 6 is where it's really out for Clemson. If they're bringing 6, then that's basically, exposing your secondary. And the reason why Clemson won the game against Florida State and also did not get exposed is really not because they got a ton of sacks, but it was because Florida State dropped a lot of big time passes that were wide open. I can understand allowing guys wide open if you have to blitz that many, because you have to get to the quarterback. You cannot just let them pick you apart. What we saw against Florida State is the closest we've seen to what we believe Clemson should be on defense all year. But it is a little bit boom or bust with that scenario. If you're going to bring 6 to get pressure, if that's what you have to bring to get pressure, then you are allowing the secondary to be exposed. It's just going to happen. Will Louisville be able to catch those balls that Florida State was not able to? That's a big time concern for me. Now, Louisville's offensive line's been up and down this season, and they give up key pressures in the most inopportune times. But they do have an electric running back in Isaac Brown. We thought that he would be out Friday, but come to find out when we look at the injury report, that was just a typo, if you will. Maybe it was purposeful typo, but Isaac Brown, their star running back with 5 touchdown and on 91 carries, he's going to be playing against Clemson. If Peter Woods and T.J. Parker continue to get bottled up, then Isaac Brown's going to have big games, and other people are going to be able to get open, and that secondary is going to be picked apart. Louisville, the best chance to beat them is to try and to find ways to get to the backfield and make them as one-dimensional as possible. Where my worry comes in, or my skepticism, is that these guys, outside of Florida State, have struggled, and what we know for sure is that that's the consistent thing. Consistently inconsistent when it comes to being dominant, when it comes to be explosive off the line. And that allows those busts in the secondary and missed assignments on the back end. Games where the pass rush has disappeared are the games where you want to change the channel. Clemson's had too many of those games this year. Almost sacks, almost tackles for loss, almost getting pressure. Too much star power on this defensive line to be an almost defense, to be almost getting pressure on the quarterback. Miller Moss, as bad as he has been, and regressing as he's been the past few games, still can pick you apart if you allow him time. Key matchup that Louisville fans are telling me to take a look at is Chris Bell versus Avion Terrell. Bell is their volume monster, top 3 in the ACC in catches and yards. Even with a little bit of a recent dip, he is a guy that they will look to get the ball to along with Brown. So they have that 1-2 punch running back wide receiver. Terrell, one of the highest graded cornerbacks in the country, ACC best in forced fumbles, very disruptive, but as we've seen, can get caught looking in the backfield from time to time and allow a big play to happen. And he did that against Duke, and it was a big time bust there. Now that Duke one was really called for him to blitz in. So it was really more Ronan Hannafin in that case, but there have been times where Avion Terrell has looked in the backfield as well. If Moss has time to pick you apart, then Chris Bell would be that number 1 guy that I'm looking for to kind of get the chains moving, keep the team moving forward, and to stress out those safeties and linebackers. What Clemson needs to do, though, is, again, not just sacks. I don't really care if they get a ton of sacks. They need to put the squeeze in on Miller Moss. They need to disrupt him, stress him out, move him from where he wants to move, force him into 3rd and longs. Don't let the crowd noise get to them. Silence everything and get that pass rush going. If this front 7 or front defensive line is really a first round NFL, then we need to see it. We need to see it every single week. In a game like this, where a lot is on the line, a lot of reputation is on the line for both teams, a lot is hanging in the balance based on what we said in segment 2. What we haven't seen in Clemson's defense is putting the fear in the opponent, right? How many opponents have walked away saying, man, I don't want to see that Clemson defensive front ever again? So to me, that is the formula. And we haven't seen it. The formula doesn't change because that's where your strength should be. But because we haven't seen it, it's hard to say that that's where we believe it. Can Clemson have another game where they limit their opponent to 10 points? Who do you trust more? Miller Moss and Isaac Brown and Chris Bell, or Clemson's defensive front? Who do you trust more? Miller Moss or Cade Klubnik? That's what we're waiting to see on Friday night. And there's still a lot to have questions around because this team, really hasn't proven to you a lot that they can be trusted week in and week out, unfortunately. Hey, thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On ACC. Kenton Gibbs, Alex Dono, they break down the most interesting college conference in sports, from the rivalries to the championships to every game in between. Find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully you're getting ready for the game tomorrow. Maybe you're traveling there. I won't be flying there, and I won't be flying anyone there. I'll be watching it from home. But we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll see you, as always, Tiger fans, at the top of the hill.